Hey, welcome back, y'all. So today we're going to talk about how we can parse data out from a table outside of Power Query so that we can use that data to create personalizations and charts while also retaining the main table. This will allow us to have a refined table without having to create a bunch of different DAX expressions. So stay tuned. You're not going to want to miss it. So today we're talking about filter. So it's a new one that I haven't spoken about before. And essentially what it allows you to do is take a sample of data based upon criteria that you're filtering down and extract that and create a separate table within table view. So say, for instance, you want to separate an entire population, but retain that population in the original data set, you can. And now you have an extracted population that you can create visualizations, you can create tables, KPIs, kind of whatever you need, and you don't have to create too many different complex DAX expressions because you're not operating off the entire data set. Now the downside is filter is a little bit slower, so not as efficient as using calculate and count rows, since calculate does have its own filter built in within the expression itself, and I'll show you why you can use calculate versus filter at times, in addition to using the count rows combo as well. But you cannot use filter alone by itself because it has no aggregation function, like calculate, like count rows, where it'll then give you the total based upon the data that you're looking at. So filter alone can't do it. By itself, though, what it can do is create that extracted table that I was talking about. But enough of the talking. Let's dive in. I'll show you exactly what I'm talking about. All right, so here we have a sample table. I have 10,000 rows over here. Gives me general data that I'm looking at. And what I want to do is I want to identify how many people are going to be on absence, but also have their training completed, right? Now you don't have to use these type of criteria that I'm looking at. You can swap them out for whatever meets your use case, whether it's a status, occupation, gender, or something else. But for this one, we're going to just put two criteria down for that filter logic and then create a new table to retain the original data set as well. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go home. I'm going to create a new table, and we're going to keep this pretty vanilla, right? We're just going to call this new table, and I'm just going to put filter. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my sample table, and you see how filter is asking me to write the table first. So that's what I'm going to do is I'm select the table of interest first. And then the next is going to be filter expression. So I'm going to first put is on absence from sample table equals yes. And then I want to further identify with the second criteria, the next condition that I'm looking at. So training now, training complete equals no. And the reason I want to say no is because I want to identify, okay, who's actually gone but hasn't done their training. And once again, you can swap this out for whatever you think is best for your organization. This is just an example, and I could run this. And then for some reason, I got no results, right? And the reason I got no results is because within quotations, you want to run the exact text that's in there. So it's actually going to be no, and then we're going to run that. And now we have our data. So instead of the 10,000 rows, we have 2,564. So this is easily workable now. So I can create visualizations based upon this exact data set. I don't have to make too many formulas as I would have within the other large data file because now I have the specified population that I'm looking at. And here we have how many people are actually on absence right now based upon the rank. So this is just a way you can use filter is take that large data set that you have and narrow it down to a specific population. Now, what if we just want to take that exact data set that we had and create a KPI, create a measure off of it, and not create a new table? Can we do that with the filter expression? And I'll walk you through that real quick. And what we're going to do is we're going to run that exact same expression that we ran as a table and see if it runs properly. So we're just going to call this test total. Nothing too crazy. Once again, we're going to say filter. We're going to say sample table, comma. We're going to say is on absence equals yes. Double ampersand is going to be the second indicator that we're looking at, the second criteria. And I'm just going to tab it over just so I can know I'm moving on to my second condition now. And then we're going to do training completed equals no, and we're going to run that. As you can see, I have an error message that popped up. And the reason this popped up is because filter alone does not allow you to run an aggregation function. It doesn't do it automatically. So there's no calculate, there's no count rows, there's no sum, no count, none of that kind of stuff in here. So we need to be able to integrate that within the expression so that we can then get the total. So we're going to adjust this just a little bit and integrate those other DAX expressions so that we can get the total that we're looking for. And then all that's going to take is we're just going to put calculate in here. We're going to put count rows. We're going to put sample table and then a comma. We're going to shift this over some more just so it looks cleaner. And then we're going to put the closing parentheses for calculate, because calculate is going to then give me the aggregation for all this. We're going to run that. And now we're going to see if we have the same value that we just created. So we're going to put a card here real quick. And then we'll say test total, 2,564. So if I go back to my sample table, I can see on the bottom is 2,564. So same concept, right? But do we really need filter here though is the question. Filter is going to be useful when it comes to creating a new parse table that we already did. We really don't need it here simply because there's already a filter technically embedded within calculate. So I'm going to scratch all of this and we're going to rewrite this from the beginning. We're going to say calculate. We're going to say count rows. We're going to still select sample table. And then we're going to say filter one. So calculate has an expression that we're looking for, which is going to be based on the count rows sample table. So we skip that, we bypass that technically, right? And now we're looking at the first condition that we're looking for. So the first condition is going to be is on absence from sample table. That equals yes, and double ampersand, right? Or we can do a comma, and then we can put training completed for sample table equals no. And then just like that, we're going to close that up, and then we're going to see what happens. And just like that, we adjusted the same DAX expression that we previously wrote, and we have the same exact total, so no change. At the end of the day, do you really need filter to write your DAX expressions on the front end, your kind of total data? Not necessarily, because calculate already has that feature embedded with it, but filter is going to allow you to parse that data within table view so you can have a calculated table that you're looking at based upon the criteria that you want. And the reason I say that is because I think we get tied up when it comes to creating too many complex DAX expressions. I think simplicity is best when it comes to writing things in Power BI. Not only does it help you as a developer, but then the person that you hand the product off to as well, that's going to maybe manage it, in your absence or then whenever you depart that organization. So just think about that as you're kind of developing things and what's the easiest and smoothest way to kind of do things for the upkeep of that application or that product. All right, so let's go back to the sample table, and we're actually going to run a DAX expression based upon this entire data set. And I want to show you a different way that you can run the calculate count rows combo with the in function as well, so that you don't have to use filter and you can receive your results that you're looking for easily. But what if you have criteria that you're looking at in one column that's more than one condition? What do you do, right? So let's just say, for instance, on status here, we have 4 different statuses, right? So we have active, we have inactive. What if I want to total the active and inactive? I want to remove these other 2, right? So right now the total is 10,000. And if I remove these 2, it's going to be 2,589. All right. So I want to have that total on the front end. So I'm going to go ahead and write that DAX expression and see if we can meet that total. Let's remove this out of the way real quick. I create a new measure here. We're just going to call this sample measure for the time being. We're going to say calculate. We're going to say count rows again. This is honestly my favorite combo to use because it's the most simplistic and it gets you results that you're looking for easily. So the first condition we're looking for is going to be under soldier status. We just want to make sure we have that. Just type in status, and then we're not going to put any quotations or equals or anything like that here. We're going to put in. So in is going to allow you to meet more than one condition within a column. I'm going to put in, and I'm going to put this curly bracket, and then we're going to say active, and it's going to be inactive. And all you have to do is just separate it by a delimiter, which is at comma, and then looking for your text strings specifically. Now, if it's a number, you're probably just going to put that whole value by itself. We're going to close that up, and then we're just going to close up calculate now, and we're going to run that. And now we're just going to create a card once again. We're going to do sample measure. So this is looking for active and inactive, right? All right, so if I go back to sample table and I filter down, I actually had the wrong filters on. So I did have a filter still for one of these over here. So if I deselect deployed and on leave, active and inactive is actually 5,125. So that's the value you're looking at. Now you can keep this going, right? You just don't have to have 2. You can have 3, you can have 5, really as many as you want. And this will allow you to look at more than one condition within a column. But just to wrap up, filter is going to be useful when it comes to parsing out data from a data table that you already have while retaining that data table. And then calculate and count rows kind of already has that filter expression built into it. So just leverage that and then not use filter on the front end because it's sort of redundant. And then it also allows you to not have a complex DAX equation unnecessarily. But hopefully you learned something today, folks. Leave a like, leave a comment down below. Let me know what you think. And then with that said, thanks for watching.